Hello everyone, welcome back to Band of Brothers. I am Elton, and this week I am joined by, as always, Andy.
Hello.
And we have Josh from LS Media. LSG Media. What a fucking idiot. I always listen to that, and there's me screwing it up straight away.
Glad to be here. Yeah, hey, I've been enjoying your guys' work. It's been fantastic. And, gotta represent the other side of the pond on this one, so happy to be
come in and save us.
That's right. Just like we always do.
We're over halfway through, and you're coming. Don't worry, I'll tie this one off for you guys. Don't worry, it's all good.
Yeah, this is the first episode, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing happened in Band of Brothers before this episode.
It starts with episode 6, which is weird, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it starts with 6.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so I dragged you on this because I know that you love the Band of Brothers and you have affinity with all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to get another perspective. We've had lots of very posh English accents on here, so we thought we'd get a rather common accent on from now on. Why not? Dub it down a little bit. Why not?
That's what we're good for. So, we got Bastogne. I can't remember, what was the last one? Is it Turning Point? Hang on. Where am I? Crossroads.
Hang about. Before we get over to that,
yeah, go on.
Can I just ask, because again, just for the listeners out there, another reason we brought Josh on is you have a somewhat unique perspective on the military. Would you like to share that?
Yeah. I was active duty. I was a United States Marine. I was an infantry officer. Was in from 2008 2013. Had a pretty active combat deployment to southern Afghanistan, down in Helmand, actually right next to the British AO. And was did a couple more training deployments after that, working with some other foreign nationals that were going to Afghanistan near where we were. I did a ship float, and training all over the place. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I have a little bit of that perspective. Certainly wasn't in any battles quite like Bastogne, but I guess it's a perspective.
Well, I know it does get cold in Afghanistan, but I don't think it quite gets to the levels we see here. But my question was, so having been in the active military today, do you see a similar sort of unit dynamic to what you see in Band of Brothers in what you experienced? Or is this something unique or from the time? Just how did that go?
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, I think, what year did this come out?
It's 2001, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Like 3 years after Saving Private Ryan. So I love these things as a kid. I grew up, I was really into military history, devouring books, and, then watching anything I could, my parents, I guess, would let me see. And then as I got older, watching it all. But then going back and watching again, post those kind of experiences, and that's something that I really, really love about this, is that brotherhood and that bonding, and the humor and the blackest of times and that stuff. When it's done right, it's so powerful. And Band of Brothers does it great. And that's what it's like. I mean, there's a big difference between a unit that's been in combat together and one that hasn't. There's always going to be a fraternity there, but it's really different. When I meet another Marine, see a sticker on a car or whatever, somebody brings it up, it's always, hey, Semper Fi, brother, shake hands. But the guys that you were, on those deployments with, it's it's a bond that it never breaks. And these guys, obviously, like I said, nothing of the level of liberating Europe, but these guys are doing reunions 50, 60, 70 years later until there's none of them left. It's that bond is unbreakable, and Band of Brothers does it great. And I'll tell you another. I've heard you mention it on one of the other episodes, but if anyone hasn't seen it, Generation Kill is another excellent miniseries. In particular, so that's a Marine recon unit in the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and that particular show portrays the way Marines, I guess any kind of infantry type unit, the way they talk, interact, joke, the sense of humor, how they act around each other, better than anything I've ever seen.
Right.
So if you want to know what it's really like, how the guys talk to each other, that is spot on.
I love Generation Kill. I think that is superb.
Oh yeah, I love it. And little side note because on occasion I dress up as a judge, because as you do, I've got a little unit which plays radio chatter, and the radio chatter all comes from Generation Kill.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, they do a great job like tying that in. That's all real stuff too. I've listened to it closely. It's like, that's a 9-line. That's, all these different actual radio formats.
Yeah, there's a couple of episodes, I think, on Generation Kill where it finishes and you have the credits and you just have the squawking going over.
Yeah, I love all that stuff because again, it's proper. Because there's none of this over and out bollocks. It's all proper clipped military talk, and it sounds cool.
It does.
That's awesome.
With that in mind, can I just get your opinion on another show then? Have you ever seen Over There?
No, I haven't. That's who produces that?
I've got it over in the corner. I can't see it at the moment. I don't know who produces it. I got 5 episodes into it and I had to stop. It just annoyed me. It was more like a soap than anything else.
Yeah,
it was FX. That was
all right. Yeah, it seemed from what I heard about it, nobody really particularly pushed it to me, so I let that one slip by. I figured it would just piss me off if I watched it.
Yeah, don't go there. Don't go there. Good.
Right. Before we get onto the episode, can I ask you one more real quick thing, Elton?
Yeah, go on.
Because you watched Battle of Britain.
I did.
Very quickly, what did you think of it? Because we've been going on about you for this for like 6 episodes now.
Yeah. Battle of Britain. That was I couldn't. Okay. Hands up. If someone wants to steal my Windows now, I don't mind. I got a hooky episode of it, and I didn't have the subtitles on, so it was like watching The Enemy. It was brilliant. It was how it should have been. Just watch the Germans speak German, and you feel distance from them. But I thought it was brilliant. I thought for the time, the special effects that they used on there were amazing.
A lot of it wasn't special effects, was it? I mean, that film is why we have the Battle of Britain Memorial flight.
Oh, yeah.
Because they got a load of the aircraft flying again, and then afterwards the RAF kept them. So.
Yeah. I thought, that it was sparsely used, the special effects, but when they did use it, it was very, very good. And because there was a couple of times where an aeroplane was heading towards you, and then it was blown up, and it would fall quicker than it was actually flying. And you think, what happened there? I don't understand that. But I had so much fun with it. I really did. There was a point where someone was watching some anti-aircraft incendiaries go up in the air, flak into the sky, and someone came out with a pot of tea. And I just thought, oh man, that is amazing.
Or it's when the guy parachutes into the garden and the kid runs out with a box of cigarettes for him. Oh, thanks awfully, old chap.
He crashes through a greenhouse.
Have you seen it, Josh?
I saw that as a kid. I remember at my dad's house, we used to watch, old like 50s, 60s, 70s, war movies. I probably haven't seen it for 25 years. I don't know, a long time. I'd like to go back.
Okay, it's decided. We're doing a special at some point when Elton will do Band of
Nice.
No, that sounds. What did you think of it then, Andy? When you saw it?
I fucking love that film. I mean, I've grown up with it again because growing up, I used to watch a lot of like 50s and 60s war movies, like Battle of River Plate. It's one of my all-time favorites. Mm-hmm. Bridge on the River Kwai, kind of a war movie, but I like all that. But yeah, Battle of Britain, and everyone's in it. You've got Michael Caine is in it, Ian McShane, Kenneth More, Christopher Plummer. It's just like a who's who was acting at the time. And the music, Ace's High March when Goering's inspecting the Luftwaffe at the beginning.
Yeah.
So fucking good.
Yeah, I think the only war movie I can think of that has more of a star-studded cast is probably Bridge Too Far, which is...
which is kind of like the American version, almost, isn't it? You got Gene Hackman's in there. I think Clint Eastwood. Michael Caine's in that one as well.
He is.
Yeah, everyone's in it.
Because you have. I mean, they actually, unlike Band of Brothers, you do see more of the old Red Devils and their part and everything.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was reading about the Red Devils actually because I took a day trip up to Duxford Airdrome.
Yeah, which is in Battle of Britain. You know when the hangar blows up?
Yes.
That's Duxford.
That is actual Duxford. Oh, okay, fine.
That's why when you go to Duxford, you have World War II hangar, World War II hangar, World War II hangar, no hangar. It's because they blew it up for the film.
Okay. Is that the one where he tells the woman to stop screaming and get control of herself, and then she just has a right go back at him?
It was to stop smoking. Goes, put that light out.
Oh, yes.
Don't you shout at me, Sergeant Major.
Yeah. I went there, and that airfield is just full of fucking Spitfires. There's tons of them. There's absolutely tons of them. There was a 2-seater flying around when we were there, just giving us a flyby for no reason whatsoever. And in the hangars where they're fixing them, they've got some pristine versions of them. That they must just keep them there. And
it's called the what's it called? I think it's the Historical Flying Club or something like that. But they fly. They got a couple of Spitfires. I think they've got a Hurricane. There's the Corsair. There's a load of aircraft in there. They actually did the recent maintenance overhaul on the Lancaster.
Yes.
Up there too.
Yeah, that was in there. They opened that to the public a little while ago. So you could actually walk through that, but that was all closed the last time I went there. But yeah, they're still cracking bits of kit.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you liked it though, because if you hadn't, I would be forced to kill you.
And what do they drop from in the first episode of Band of Brothers? What is the plane that they use on that?
C-47s, I think.
They have one out there.
Yes, they do in the American Aviation Hall. They've also got a B-52 and an SR-71, which is awesome.
Yeah,
sick.
Yeah. And they've got the F4 as well, which is a personal favourite, and the A-10.
No F-14 though, which is disappointing.
No. But there we go. No, well, they got the F-15, so that kind of cancels that out. But
anyway, we're way off topic now. Back to World War II.
Right, okay, back to Bastogne, where we were last time. So, I want to get first initial impressions on this, if you don't mind. I think we'll go with Josh with the first initial impression on this. You know, when did you first see this? Have you seen it many times before? What did you think of it first time? What did you think of it this time?
I saw this not on HBO, but within probably a year of it coming out. I got the DVD package very quickly. I knew about it coming because, like I said, Saving Private Ryan had really blown me away. So at that point, I was on the lookout for anything like that, and this was really, really coming off the heels of that. And I loved it. Ate it up. I've owned and seen. I mean, I've probably watched the entire series. I don't know, maybe 10 times through, 12 times through, on average, probably once a year. You know, since then. And I'll tell you, this has always been an episode that I like especially. I mean, there's not a lot of episodes I don't like, but Bastogne is a great one. And having rewatched it now, I'll tell you, before we started recording, you know, we were talking a little bit about Dunkirk, and I believe neither of you gentlemen have seen it. Is that correct?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
All right. Well, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I'm not sure if it's just
because... I think we win.
Well, you know, running away.
It was a tactical withdrawal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, was that the last time British were scrambling to exit Europe with the Germans chasing them?
Oh, doom.
Terrible. So, having just seen that, that movie portrays the Germans as really not a dehumanizing way, but as an enemy force, a monstrous kind of it's almost more of a survival or a horror movie than it is a war movie. And watching Bastogne, it really felt similar to that. I mean, you hardly see the Germans. There's the one German soldier that's captured, but it's just being in this horrific place in these horrific conditions and enduring stuff that is just unbelievable, regardless of the encircling enemy trying to kill them. Just the conditions are awful. I also, you know, I have a huge soft spot for medics. You know, we have corpsmen in the Marines, or Navy guys that are attached to Marine units, and saw them do some amazing things. And I have, you know, friends in some of my junior Marines that are alive because of their actions. And so I love the perspective on Doc Rowe on this, following him through. So, I mean, this is definitely a highlight episode for me. Big, very high on it, very high.
Excellent. What about yourself, Andy?
Oh, I love this. I mean, this is probably my top 3 episodes of all of Band of Brothers. I love the character of Doc Rowe, and just the way. By this time, we're familiar with the rest of the company, even the replacements, the people who've come in. You know, even if we don't know their names, we know them on face, and it's just seeing him jumping between them. And what's interesting about this episode as well is it really couldn't have come at any other time in the series, because if it comes any earlier, there's not enough action really to keep you interested. The suspense comes because you know these people, you're familiar with them. I mean, again, you think about it, for most of it, it's spent in foxholes in a foggy forest with just a few moments of sheer terror. What is it they used to say? Hours of boredom, seconds of sheer terror. So that's sort of a vibe going on there. But yeah, again, like Josh said, the Germans are hardly there. We see the one who gets lost and takes a shit in Winter's private bidet, and then you got the ambush when they go up to the line, and we also got the when they get lost and accidentally fall into the German foxhole. But that's about it. But at the same time, they're always there. They're this presence just beyond the fog. I mean, it's almost like a horror movie in a sense, with that fog, and you just don't know what's coming out of it. And yeah, when you break it down, like I said, not a lot happens, but so much happens, if that makes sense to you. And again, I feel so, it kind of hurts what's happening to Doc here. I don't know if either of you guys ever used to watch Deep Space Nine back in the day. I know you wouldn't have, Elton, but they used to have a thing where they'd always torture one of the characters because it was fun torturing him. He played the tortured guy so well. With this guy, he's being tortured, and your heart's just breaking towards the end, and you can see he's got PTSD after this. There's a great moment where I think the machine gunner gets shot. I can't remember who he is, and Rose just sitting there, and they shout, "Doc, medic, go!" And you see him say, "All right." And go, "No, not all right. Lie down. All right, go." And his kind of body makes him go before his mind's ready as well. And I mean, all the acting throughout Band of Brothers is superb, but this is probably like I said, in my top 3.
Yeah.
I love it.
Good. I would say this is in my top 2. Definitely. This is one of my go-to episodes. Mm-hmm. I think it's because we've had the first 5 episodes and we've got to know everyone, if not by name, by face. And so we can, when they're muddied up, you can recognise them straight away within seconds of getting in the foxhole. You might not know their name, but you know where they are and who they're with. And that's what I love about it. This episode also, I love the camera shots because everything's pretty much shot from a foxhole when we're on the field. Mm-hmm. It's that sort of level. Everything is knee level or foxhole level. There's no real, well, I suppose you're with the soldiers. If action's going on, it's real low and close to the floor. If you're actually standing up talking to a general, yeah, then you get the higher shots. Mm. But you also get this, you're fighting the enemy, which you cannot see, but then you've also got the weather that is coming in, and it comes in slower and slower, and it gets colder and colder, and you can see them really physically fighting that weather as well. So you've got the Germans, you've got no ammunition, you've got no clothes, and then you're fighting the weather that's coming in as well. And you just think that if hell froze over, that is what hell would look like. It's fucking god awful. And I think it's so well done that it has to be in my top 2. This and the next episode are fight for position as the top episode for me. I think it's just so well done. I love it. So there we go. Right, so should we get into this, or is there anything else that anyone wants to say about it very briefly?
I mean, we'll talk about it more when we get to it, but I think this has the most distressing death in the entire series is in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's painful, isn't it? And you can, I suppose we'll get to it later, but you can see the pain on Rose's face and Renee's face as well. Mm.
But anyway, let us get to it in due course.
That's grim. My God, we're on a down already. Flipping hell.
Already.
Right.
It's not exactly an episode full of sunshine and puppies.
No, the puppies would have been killed or frozen at some point in this one.
There was chocolat.
There was, yes. Yeah. If they were going to kill puppies, they'd probably put it in a bag, throw it in the river, and it'd just bounce off the river because it's frozen, because it's so fucking cold. Anyway. Right, okay, so we're back on Bastogne. We're going to do the talking heads, because I've put stars.
I was literally about to shout at you for that.
So I always forget these. And once again, we don't know who this is, but they're talking about not having any ammo, not having the correct clothes, but they're digging in. They always have this thought of the guys up above them are going to be helping them out. They're going to be getting them supplies as soon as they can. It comes across as, no, they're always going to help us. They're always going to bring this stuff out. You also have one of the guys turning around and saying, on a real cold night, he turns to his wife and says, I'm glad I'm not in Bastogne. And there's that little pregnant pause as well. And you think, everyone breathes in and goes, yeah, get it. And then we're into the episode for real. And I've done the talking episode. Yes, excellent. So,
yeah, talking.
So what does it open on this? We have snowfields, don't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because the previous episode, we ended with them arriving at Bastogne, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we had, talk show host blokey, what's his name? Can't remember it. Telling them there's no ammo and, you're going to be trapped here, basically.
Yeah.
Jimmy
And
Fallon.
Winter's, that was it, Jimmy Fallon. And then Winter's saying, we're the airborne infantry. We're supposed to be surrounded. And that was it. And yeah, now we've got, Doc Rowe kind of running between the foxholes, looking for some morphine and scissors.
This is essentially the whole episode, isn't it? Him searching for supplies because they have no supplies.
Well, this is his episode. Last time out was, I think, Winter's, but this is Doc Rowe's episode. And again, he's been a presence since episode 1, but this is the first time we're really spending the time with him. But even so, he stood out, largely because he is the medic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just him running between. He's always been the one who's kind of been supplying. If you hit, he's the one who comes to make it better. It reminds me of a terrible joke I know. The difference between a doctor and a medic. A doctor heals you, a medic just makes you more comfortable while you die.
Jeez.
Doc Rowe, however, is a doctor. He seems to make them better, or at least get them off the line. But he's running between the foxholes because he's out of morphine, he's out of bandages, he's out of everything, which suggests they've been having a rough time of it. Because as someone already alludes to, you're not using this for yourself, are you? Kind of like personal.
Yeah. Well, we got the impression that they were low on everything anyway, because when Fallon turned up, he was handing over ammo and everyone was piling in on that. And
yeah,
they were going in ill-prepared anyway. They had
no winter clothing.
No. Which
I really love that it's, we see, usually when you see, the medic or the corpsman, whatever, in a movie and show, they show up when, the guy's shot, blown up, whatever. I love that in this episode, they do, obviously that's their primary role, but they do so much more than that. As he's making the rounds, going hole to hole, checking the guys. When he gets Toy the boots, when Babe is all broken up and he's in the foxhole with the other doc, like good doc, good corpsman, medics, whatever, they do so much beyond just, deal with battlefield injuries. They really are constantly looking out for doing everything they can to take care of these guys, and they're fucking amazing. And I think Doc Rowe is a great example, and it's so cool to see that, to get to see all of it instead of just the bloody actiony kind of parts.
Well, yeah, he's like a general practitioner, isn't he? He's there for the injuries they have, but also Garnier comes up to him later and says about pissing needles, and they have medical problems, as everyone would have left overnight in a cold trench. So he has to balance all that out as well. And he just doesn't have the equipment to do that. And so you can tell that his hands are tied, but yet he's doing the best that he can. He's got a real good bedside manner with him as well. He doesn't fob anyone off. He doesn't, oh no, I'm not dealing with you, I'll deal with someone else. They're more important. He deals with that person, but it's in such a way that, look, I can't do anything for you at the moment. It'll be later. And he does it all the way through the episode. Now, I think it's a real good portrayal of a bedside manner that he puts across. I think he's a fabulous actor anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay, so we have, there's a bit where Winters is chopping out ice out of one of his mess tins.
Yep.
And that's got to be depressing. You wake up in the morning and you've got that. You're like, fucking hell.
I just love his determination to have a show. Ice cold water. That it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
He is the epitome. He's always been the epitome to me of what a good combat leader should be. But probably more than any other character that I've seen portrayed in TV or film.
Yeah, the way that he's just composed to do that shave. And then he hears the twig snap, and it's just, whoa, hang on, back on duty straight away. And I love the way that he speaks German as well. Oh, what does he say? Oh.
Is kommen Sie hier?
Kommen Sie
Schnell.
hier? Schnell, yeah.
Yeah. I hardly think he counts as fluent, but it was enough to get the message across. You just got to feel sorry for that guy, because he shat his pants after that.
Meanwhile, on the German Band of Brothers podcast, they're complaining about how every time there's Germans, they say Schnell.
Screw them losers. So they strip this guy down. They get the bandage. So Doc has at least one German bandage, which is always good. Mm-hmm. And then we have one of the generals turn up as well. Or am I jumping forward?
Yes. McAuliffe.
No, the general showed up, didn't he? And what is it Dyke, the lieutenant that Easy Company stuck with at the minute?
Oh, Norman
Jesus.
Dyke.
Yeah. Who is about as much use as a condom machine in the Vatican. We kind of get the lay of the land of what's going on here. The lay of the land is, still kind of fucked. We can't supply you because it's foggy. No shit, Sherlock. We don't have anything at the CP, and we hear that the line is not so much a line as a interconnected series of dots. The general to which says, well, I don't care, secure the line. We have no men. That's not my problem.
Well, they're not even going to get drops either.
No.
It sounds, I think one of the guys on the Talking Heads bit said that they were getting drops, but the Germans were getting them. So they were getting resupplied with all their shit. Which is, I get it, but flipping hell, man. You imagine seeing that parachute falling down. No, that. Can we have that back, please? I say, that's our box.
It's like, the ball's gone over the fence. Excuse me, sir, can we have our ball back?
Yeah, there's no letter through the door saying, we left it with the Germans. You just have to knock next door, get your parcel. Fuck that Amazon drone dropping shit all over the place, crying out loud.
Oh.
That would have come in awfully handy back then.
Oh man, that would have been amazing.
I just ordered plasma on Amazon. I was here in like 2 hours. Sweet.
Can't plug it in though, but there we go. So we have the dog. He's scrounging for scissors as well, which I think comes in handy later on. He's got his bandage, and we know that the 1st Battalion has pulled out, and they're looking for Dyke. Doc jumps into a foxhole with the other Doc as well. I didn't catch that other doctor's name though. That was my problem with him.
Spina.
Right. He jumps into a foxhole with him. And then in the background, you can see Dyke just walking around. He looks like a lost puppy.
Aimlessly.
Oh,
yeah, a little bit.
Can we talk about Dyke for a minute?
Ugh.
Oh, please. Yeah. Well, this is previously, and for most of this episode, he was just this buffoon. It was just like, oh, God. Roll your eyes. Oh, bloody Dyke again. But he did something in this episode which made me actively dislike him and want him dead. And that's when they got ambushed, and his reaction was to run away and say, I've got to get back to the CP. He's left all his men behind. There's a kid shot in the throat, bleeding, dying there. We'll get to that in a minute. But his reaction was to just run away, leave them all behind, past Doc, just run back to the CP. It's like, that man has no business being in a combat zone whatsoever. He reminds me of the sort of officer who would buy their commission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he's just he's a wasted body out there. He's not doing anything. He's not helping anyone. If anything, he's hindering people's efforts out in the field.
Yeah, exactly. If he was a private, he would be a wasted body. Unfortunately, he's in charge of Easy Company, so he's much worse than a wasted body. I hate this character. Obviously, I have a personal thing for it, being a former infantry officer. There's so many movies where it's like there's that trope, from Aliens, Gorman and Aliens. The officer's always just up his own ass, and he has no clue, and it's always that trusty sergeant that sees it through in the end. And I hate that trope. But then you're watching this and you're like, this isn't a trope. This is a real character that they're basing this on. So I hate this guy especially hard because you're the reason these tropes exist. Because there really are shitty officers like you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you both a question. Who would you rather have commanding you, Dyke or Sobel?
Oh, I personally would have to go with Sobel because you get the tally ho at least.
I mean, the hi ho silver.
Oh yeah, sorry, the hi ho silver. At least you'd be running with a smile on your face towards your death.
If it was combat, I have more respect for Sobel, but I know if it was Dyke and I was like his first sergeant or his XO, I could just bulldoze him. Like he wouldn't put up a fight and somebody else could actually run the company, you know. Versus Sobel wouldn't do that because of his pride and arrogance, and would probably more actively get people killed instead of by, you know, negligence and hiding at the CP.
Yeah. Well, I feel Sobel is more likely to be the last person killed throughout his company of men, whereas Dyke would probably be killed by his own men before anything else happens.
Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure in episode 1, Garnier and all that were actively contemplating killing Sobel.
I think he was, yeah. But we have a scene with Dyke where he's lost, he's looking for his foxhole, and he's relying on Lipton for everything. Anything that happens, he reports to Lipton to tell him that I'm going to go get help. Oh, Lipton, where is my foxhole? Now, if he dug his own foxhole... It's like Kip and Sam Brannigan. Yeah. Well, am I right in thinking if you dug your own foxhole, you'd roughly know where it is?
Do you really think he dug his own foxhole?
For sure not.
I guarantee you he didn't.
And where's the chair? Where's my deck chair? And my book? Did you not supply me with a book? I'm sure.
Where was the library? Is it down from a study?
And the steps. How do I get down into this foxhole? But yeah, he's clearly not dug his own foxhole, so he's lost. He doesn't find it. Lipton is just... You can almost see his eyes rolling backwards in his head, as if to say, for fuck's sake, man. No, sir. It's over there. You probably just walked past it. You fucking idiot. But yeah, he has a go at the docks for having 2 in one foxhole, which I kind of get. That's the only thing that I can agree with him. Having 2 medics in a foxhole, if one of them gets dropped on, that's it. They're both gone. And then they have no more medics. So he has a point, but at that point he's still dumbass.
It sounds to me like he's just reciting stuff from the textbooks.
Yeah,
it is common sense thing, but they're clearly they're exchanging supplies. There's a reason they're there together. You could have just said, "Don't stay together, guys." Obviously, it's just like you have no business. What happens if you get hit? It's the manner in which he says it.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's a prat.
Oh god, yeah, he's a massive knob. And then we have Garnier pissing needles as well. This is what I like about Rowe going around and speaking to all the guys. He's going around trying to collect stuff, but then he's also doing... It must be like a doctor when they go down to the pub into a local village. And he walks in, all right, Doc, let me get you a beer. By the way, can I ask you this? And it'd just be questions about, their manky feet and their wonky willy and stuff like that. Just be fucking terrified to go into a pub, wouldn't you? Surely. But yeah, we have the Garnier situation. Then we have, I think it's Doc, and is it Heffron?
Heffron, yeah.
He's talking to
Edward.
He's cooking something up in his helmet, isn't he?
There's a load of them cooking up. Yeah, they're kind of cooking up some food or something.
Yeah, and then they get struck.
Yeah, mortars coming in.
Which is, it's terrifying because the thing I find terrifying about this. Yeah, they're getting laid into, but immediately you get the call of medic, and your natural instinct surely would be to dive into a foxhole. Whereas the medic's job, even though he's been running around all day trying to get supplies, he now has to run around in between the foxholes to help the guys out.
Interesting thing to note as well is he never carries a weapon. I'm assuming it was standard practice for the medics not to be armed?
Yeah, technically... by Geneva Conventions, medics are non-combatants, and therefore, if they're properly identified, which is why they wear that white armband with the red cross on it, they are not a lawful target. And in general, like in World War II, most of the fighting on the Western side was relatively by the book. So the Germans, Americans, Brits generally respected those kind of things, unlike the Eastern Front and unlike today. I mean, technically, like, today corpsmen are non-combatants, but, on our deployments, all corpsmen are armed because, A, the enemy doesn't respect that they're non-combatants, and B, then they started to actively target them when they realized that the people without weapons were the corpsmen and the medics and would go after them first. Jeez. So now it's as much a point of kind of camouflaging them. So they do not identify themselves generally by procedure.
Remember in Saving Private Ryan, you can see medics on the beach just, while you got others ducking and running behind the tank traps, and these guys are just kind of walking between people and trying to help.
Right. And to say, they're not like a lawful combatant, and most people respect that, doesn't mean that it's not super dangerous, because obviously nobody's aiming the arty at a person. So as he's running around when everybody else is ducked in their foxholes with their, helmets tucked tight, he's at more risk than anybody. But yeah, responding to the call.
Yeah, they're not in God mode, are they? Where they can just walk around.
No clip. Walk through the scenery.
Yeah, exactly. God mode enabled. And walking around, just bullets bouncing off you. No, it doesn't quite work like that. One thing about his costume, though, because he does have one Red Cross armband on, there was a scene where the guy who gets paralyzed, he's taping him up, and yet his armband is facing away. And so I would have thought, wouldn't it be standard practice to have him on both arms? Or is that just too much display? Or why would it only be on one arm?
I don't even know.
Well, it's on the helmets as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, in that particular instance, it wouldn't have made any difference because the fog was so bad. There's no way the Germans could have seen what they were shooting at anyway. That was spray and pray.
Yeah. Yeah, if that was me, I'd want to identify myself as much as I could.
You'd be walking around in a giant white frock with a big red cross in the middle of it.
with a big stick hanging out my helmet with a big white flag saying, nope, not me. Not me. Thank you very much. It's all good. But yeah, so we have the first barrage from the Germans, which it scares the buggery out of me. This does.
Oh, it's that sound, isn't it?
Oh, all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere. There's no whistle. There's no nothing. It's just 1 minute you're talking to your mate. Next minute it's action station straight away, and it just rains down on them. Which is terrifying. I know I say this every episode, but so much respect for anyone that went through that. I can't see how people can go through that. It scares the living crap out of me, that does. Right, so what happens after that? We have someone gets hurt on their arm, don't they? I never quite. Once again, it's a face I recognise. It's a name I cannot stick to. I know it's not Skinny because he gets done with the leg, doesn't he?
I think it's Pencala. He's the one that
the one who gave him the scissors, wasn't it? Was it when he stole the?
No, that's Luz, isn't it?
He stole the scissors from. It began with a P.
Yeah, it is a different P, I think. But I think Pencala is the one that gets hit, and he's
Frank
worried that's an art.
Yeah, Conte. That's who he got the scissors from.
Yeah, it's so that's only like an arm wound. He's saying that he doesn't want to go back to the station, the aid station, but they don't have an aid station to take him back to anyway.
Yeah.
So, there's no fear of that, so don't worry about that. And even that is a call for a medic. He's got his aid kit on him as well. Is it just would you think it would just be a natural reaction? You get hit, so you called for a medic instead of trying to deal with it yourself?
I think it's, you get hit, you're going to call for a medic, because on the one hand, you'd rather have the medic turn around to you and say, oh, it's nothing, than you've nicked an artery and you bleed out.
Yeah.
Because have we already had the episode with the guy in Beluga?
No, I hate that.
But you know the episode I'm talking, that bit, and it's just like, he's talking and he's fine and then he's just gone. And it's just like, I'm assuming you could have something where you don't think it's a bad thing. And it's just like, again, when your adrenaline's up and, shock is a wonderful thing in the sense of stopping you feeling pain. Mm-hmm. But it's a terrible thing in the sense of keeping you alive.
Yeah, general rule is self-aid, buddy aid, corpsman aid. So, but that doesn't mean the corpsman's going to see any casualty. But you know, if you're hurt, your first goal, you know, if you're not in the fight anymore, should be to take care of yourself. Then it's to, you know, have a buddy, your battle buddy, take care of you, and then get that corpsman there. So yeah, they're going to call for a medic, but you know, I mean, if he was, he could have already started applying a bandage or putting a tourniquet on, depending on how bad it was.
Except that he's already given up his bandages all to Doc Crow.
True. Guess you gotta need him then.
Yeah,
and that's where this next scene, isn't it? Right after this, he goes and sees Dyke, and he's going to get the morphine, and that douche rocket Dyke is like, well, what happens if I get hit? Oh, yeah, super combat leader, just caring about himself.
Do you know?
But I just like it. He goes, "Don't worry, if you get hit, I'll be there for you."
The thing about that scene that bugs me with Dyke is that he asks for stuff off of him, and he turns around and says, "Right, okay, the morphine's in this, isn't it?" As if he's never opened that sachet. He's never opened it and gone through it and sorted it out, and someone else has packed that for him. Someone else has given that to him and said, yeah, you need that.
Probably Lipton.
Yeah. Lipton's his mommy. Daddy probably packs his lunch.
Jeez. But yeah, he's not even on the line, is he? Because Lipton earlier on said, no, you're a bit too close to the line, aren't you? You know, we don't want you dying or anything. Fair play now, man. But it's just another reason why you fucking ain't Dyke. You would,
Yeah. Well, he earns the nickname Foxhole Norman because of Bastogne.
Yeah. Fucking cheap. Oh, Dyke. We have Heffron and Doc also. They're going back to get some. They're after some more equipment, aren't they? And they happen upon a German foxhole.
Oh, literally happen upon it.
Yeah, but. Just leading up to that, we have a nice little setup where Heffron is talking about the Virgin Julian and a replacement in his foxhole as well. And just talking about replacements. We've already been through the replacements, so we know what is happening there. And so that's setting up for something later on, which is, that gets nasty.
Yeah.
But they do just to happen upon a German thing, which is crazy because they are walking across each other's lines so many times that I think Winters later says that they're jumping into their slip runs, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, what would go through your mind if you just happened to fall into a trench full of the enemy?
Well, I think it's kind of what you see off of Heffron. It's this, you're falling into this thing, you go, what is this? I've fallen into a hole. I mean, it kind of clicks into place. It's like, oh shit.
When you hear some German getting mumbled from in there, you're like, oh boy.
They're clearly saying
at first I thought he'd fallen into like a latrine pit or something. You know, it was like, in the shit. And I thought, oh, he's fallen in the toilet. And then you hear the German, it's like, oh no, he's fallen in the shit.
Yeah, it's grim. And they take some pops at him as well, but they don't get any shots or they don't get hit anyway. So
yeah, I think, like you said, though, it's probably a common occurrence of them falling into each other's trenches.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine so, because they were talking about when they were talking about the line, the Germans are just coming to and fro, and the one that gave himself up, did he actually give himself up, or was he lost?
Oh, he was lost.
So
yeah, for sure. He wasn't like, his plan was like, I'm going to do a 1 minute infiltration. I'm going to shit behind that captain's trench over there. I'm going to come back here and brag about it.
It was totally a dare. Like, I dare you to go and take a shit in that guy's trench.
Oh boy,
that would be awesome, man. Just put it down, put a little German flag in it.
If he'd have made it back, he'd have had some major kudos.
Yeah.
So we have, we bump into Toy now, who has no boots. He took over.
Didn't they go to the 3rd Battalion CP first, or what was left of it?
Well, they got bits from it, didn't they?
Yeah, they kind of turned up there and we told, yeah, we're leaving. There's nothing here.
Well, they were getting shelled as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then we have the scene with Dyke.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're introduced to Toy because once again, Roe is still running around and he's told to go find Toy, find out what's going on with him because something's happened to him. Now, I've listened to the audiobook of Band of Brothers, and it is in there about one of the guys taking off boots, putting them down, a mortar falling down, and just tearing them to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I'm assuming this is exactly what happened to Toy, and he's got something on his feet, but it's not boots. It's just probably a couple of pairs of socks, I'd imagine.
Yeah, probably all he's got.
It's not going to be like jungle leaves.
Probably didn't craft moccasins out of bark. He sounds a little bit too much like a city slicker to have that kind of woodsman skill.
Yeah, whittle some clogs of his own size. Just sat in there in his foxhole with his knife, just whittling away. Give it a go, though, crying out loud. I certainly would.
And in that weather, oh, man, not a good time to be without boots.
Oh, definitely not.
Can I ask... Go on, mate. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's sort of just a general commentary on this whole episode. You know, just these conditions. There was one of the most miserable exercises I ever did was it's intended to be miserable. They call it the human factors field exercise. And basically, you don't even know what's happening, but it's about 2 weeks. This is for all Marine Corps infantry officers. Go out there. You don't know what's going on. And you spend like 2 weeks, and they just fuck with you in every possible way. And it was winter. We're digging a defense. We're not getting resupplied on food. We're getting, gas thrown on us every night. Not getting enough sleep, so you're short on everything. And it was so miserable. I mean, just all those things combining. You're always cold. You're always tired. And then you look at this, and what wasn't happening? Nobody was trying to kill us. And even being short on stuff, our equipment's much better than they had back then. Mm. And at the end of the day, for sure you're not going to die. And there's very little likelihood you'll even be injured to any significant amount. And yet it is just the worst. I think back on that. I still remember it. And then you take that and now be surrounded by a vastly superior, numerically, enemy force who's doing everything in their power to kill you. And there's no way out but getting through it with each other. I mean, man, that's why this episode is just amazing to watch these guys and think about that situation and, how they prevail. Like nobody's hanging their heads. I mean, they push through it except for Dyke hiding his hole up there. That piece of shit.
Yeah. When I was at school, I spent a weekend with the Royal Green Jackets, and they took us out on midnight sorties, and we had to set up traps and stuff like that. And what would it be? We set up. We walked down the track, and we were setting up a perimeter around the track, and we were all told, go into the bushes, keep quiet, because the other guys are going to come across. And we were all told, no, don't fall asleep. And it was just a test to see if we would actually fall asleep or not. And I think within maybe half hour, I'd say 90% of us. We were 14, 15-year-olds. So we're not built for this sort of thing. And yet we all sat there shivering away. And where you're shivering, you just fall in, kind of rocking yourself to sleep. And I'd say around about 90% of us just fell asleep. And the officers there had a hell of a time. They had a hoot just waking us up, firing off their weapons with their blanks. And you've never seen...
Euphemism?
Kind of, yeah. But you've never seen, let's say, 14, 15-year-olds move that quick. We shit our pants. It scared the crap out of us. All of a sudden, you just got fire going on around you, and you think, what the hell? I don't want to be here. Why did I sign up for this? It was god-awful. It was...
Wait, sorry to interrupt, Eldon. You said this is the Green Jackets? What the hell is that? Is this like our version of Eagle Scouts, or is it like a paramilitary thing?
Oh, how would I display it? Royal Green Jackets. I wouldn't know where they sit. I know that they're rock hard bastards. I wouldn't mess with a single one of them now. Shall we put it like that? It's not.
I mean, are these like actual active duty military, like British military?
It's infantry regiment of the British Army.
Oh, okay. And you're just out there with them when you're like 14 or 15 years old?
We
it's like Army cadets, was it?
It was. See, I was in the air training course, so I didn't really do much of that. We did like the gliders and shit like that, but
Yeah. We're in the RAF. We want hotels and room service.
well, yeah, exactly, yeah. And
Okay, so this is almost like we call it like JROTC, which is like ROTC when you're in high school and you're kind of like a cadet training for that kind of stuff.
it was, yeah, but it was proper.
I mean, Air Cadets
green
was kind of like
jackets.
the Scouts, but with a military twist,
Okay.
effectively.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Either that or Elton was just abducted by some guys with green jackets. That's entirely possible, was what happened here.
I got my marksman
Did
there.
you make you call him uncle? Did they make you call him uncle?
I got my marksman there. We went on one of the days we went down to the firing range, and I think you had to get 5 or 6 shots within a 2p piece, and I was the only one who got that. So I was quite chuffed with that. But it was all about team building. It wasn't too hard, they weren't tying us up and then waterboarding us and shit like that. But yeah, I think it was an eye opener. It was a definite. If you'd been turned on by that sort of thing, they would have been like, yeah, okay, right. We need you to sign up in 2 years' time. Here's our number. Just sign up later on. I think it was just a drive to get more people to join up. But yeah, man, it was awesome. I would not tell anyone not to do it, but at the time, scared the crap out of me. I'm used to getting up for my paper round in the morning, and that was about it. That was the highlight of my week, my alarm going off. But to have gunfire going off right next to me, and like a dickhead, I dropped my gun, didn't I? I dropped it. Oh, I got a massive bollocking for that. I got such a bollocking for that. Rightly so as well. Anyway, now you know that I'm the dyke of the podcast, which is always nice to know.
No.
No, never Dyke. Maybe Pike, but not Dyke.
Yeah. Should we do this last little scene? Because we have... what's his name? Ro, he's got his scissors now. He's nicked them off of Frank. We have singing. We have the American singing, which Buck doesn't like one little bit. And that's our first look at Buck as well, isn't it?
Oof.
Yes, 'cause last time we saw him, he was in the cinema hall with a nasty case of PTSD by the looks of things.
Yeah.
It is tough to watch his slide.
Mm-hmm.
And then next episode, that's hard. I mean, honestly, that's as hard for me to watch as some of the deaths. Just seeing a guy like that get to that point, it's tough. Yeah.
Well, he portrays it so well. He does it so well. The way he walks up, and it's just stop them singing, stop them singing, stop them singing, and it's almost ingrained in him that he's well and truly fucked by this point, isn't he? But they can't pull him off the line.
Yeah.
No.
They need him.
Yeah, they need all the bodies they can get, and where they're going to pull him off to, there's no escape from that sort of area. He's not going to go anywhere, so he might as well be there. But he's such a big presence in this whole thing, and yet to see him, would diminished be the right word? I don't think that would be the right word. It's just...
I get what you're trying to say. I mean, yeah, because diminished has certain connotations, but he's so wounded.
Yeah.
Not physically, but...
broken.
Broken is exactly the word. He is broken. And I think it's great they've included that in the series to just show that, it's not all these guys are absolute heroes and everything's going great for them. And it's not all heroic deaths. I mean, it's kind of a warts and all thing, and letting the audience kind of see this and get a sense that this isn't that kind of kids playing war. This isn't all heroics and shit like that. This is horrible shit. And it's not nice to see. As Josh says, it's hard to watch, but it's important to watch.
Yeah, covering all the aspects, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then we get we have a flare coming over at that point, don't we? We have...
Yeah, you get a star shell flying up.
Is that what that's called?
In the Navy, there's star shells. I'm assuming it's just a flare. I mean, I thought flares in the army were just you pull the tops off and throw them on the ground.
Right.
You can do with like mortar rounds or artillery, and they shoot up, a parachute opens, and they give you some aluminum as they drift down. They have them now. They're actually pretty badass. They're IR, so if you have night vision and the baddies don't, you start popping those up, and it's lighting everything up for you, but it's not actually visible light, so it's not any lighter for the other guys.
Oh wow,
it's pretty cool.
Flipping out, that sounds amazing. That sounds awesome.
So all the more reason for us to get some night vision goggles for this car.
Yeah, I think
I was told I get a set for coming on.
No, it's on the it's the Patreon reward. We're waiting for them.
Oh, okay.
Get on the Patreon, people. We want night vision.
our government does put you on a list if you do buy night vision goggles, though. That's
good call.
Yeah,
good call. I'm not one for government surveillance, but hey, not a lot of good reasons to have that.
Very quick sideline. So again, back to the whole dressing up thing. I do a Ghostbusters costume, and the Ecto goggles are based off of US night vision goggles, some old ones. You cannot legally buy the strap for those outside of the US.
Can you not?
You cannot.
Right.
Those are the old
I don't have one.
PBS
I'm just saying you can't legally buy them.
Yeah, a little while ago, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you know about this, Josh, but I did an episode on Shunky Lab where I went hunting for zombie equipment to survive a zombie apocalypse, and it was just solely off of Amazon. What equipment could we get off of Amazon? And you could actually get night vision goggles off of there. Now, whether they'll be any good, whether they've got Fisher Price written on the side of them, I don't know. But even if Fisher Price are rocking out night vision goggles, fuck me, man, I'm gonna have some of them. But it's
I might have tactically acquired it's called the MTI. It's basically like a single eye night vision, like the newer style, usually over one eye.
Yeah.
But it's thermal, so it sees instead of seeing IR, it's heat. So you can have white hot or black hot. Switch back and forth. Yeah, they're pretty badass.
So you're the reason why there's a list.
If you allegedly had some.
Allegedly.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
If I were to have some, I would say they were pretty awesome. So, and when those zombies come knocking, maybe try to get over this side of the pond, and I already got a place planned out,
What do you allegedly use them for? Is it like boiling water just to make sure that it's reached the perfect temperature? Or
No, just walking around, sometimes little night trots out in the woods.
I've got to say, night trots has a different connotation over here.
Gotta watch my colloquialisms.
A little bit. Anyway, back to Bastogne.
Okay, yeah. So we have the flare pop up, and then we have Roe saying a little prayer to himself, which, if you jump on IMDb, I think the quote is on there. I haven't got it to hand at the moment, but he says a little prayer, and it beautifully fades to black, and you have that scream, and it is a blood. It's blood curdling, really is. And then all of a sudden you're back in the action, and he's bouncing around. There's mortars going off. There's shit going down again, and he's called to. Once again, I forget whose foxhole it is, but he's using the scissors on the leg, and the guy who's got the damage, I think it's just splinters from a tree, isn't it? It seems that way anyway. Yeah. And they're brutal splinters as well. That's not like me. Oh, I got a little splinter in my finger. Yeah, but I'm being very brave about it.
Yeah, this guy was being brave. At first, I thought it was the bone, but then when he started pulling it out, I was like, oh, okay, no, it's the it's wood.
It was Skinny. That's who it was.
Yeah,
he's the guy who got. And I love this scene for many, many reasons. That because. Yeah, I think the first time I saw it, I thought that was bone because that looked grim.
Yeah.
But the way he snaps it off is just, that's wood. It's all right. I love it that he doesn't want the morphine, that he knows that Doc is running low.
Yeah.
And
he's got that level of awareness as well, that's because I've got to tell you, if my leg looked like that, I'd go to pieces. It's like, give me that shit, man, all of it.
Yeah, and some more, please, as well.
Yes.
And some whiskey as well. Why not?
Yes. Oh, fiddly dee! I seem to have a splinter in my leg. I remember they drop him as well when they're wanting him to get him to the Jeep as well. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing. That's kind of a weird thing. It's the fact they are so isolated, but they still have Jeeps coming to take them back to the town and all that. and it's just it almost feels like you're just tapping out for a minute.
Yeah.
I know it's not the case, but it's that weird disconnect.
Are they in radio contact with these Jeeps, or is it just by luck that they circumvent?
I think you got Jeeps coming backwards and forwards, but
at some point they call on a radio. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think these Jeeps actually have radios, but they, the nice thing, I guess, about being surrounded in a pretty small area is it's pretty quick to get from the center to the spokes out to the side. So, the whole division was there. So the division CP was in Bastogne, and they got the regiment splayed out around them. So call back and probably, I think they're 501st. They probably call the regimental aid station, or not aid station, but whatever command was, and whatever Jeeps they have are just shuttling back and forth.
Yeah. And this leads us up to the other set piece that we have, because now we've established where we are on the battlefield. We also have another part of the battlefield, which is, it's the town of Bastogne, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Belgium.
Right. And this is, it's just a street full of rubble, and they have commandeered a church.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
okay, the scene in the church, you have hundreds of walking wounded, and then downstairs you have hundreds of people unable to walk. It's just, wow. It is breathtaking what they've done with this.
Well, it is, and the whole introduction to that town. All of Band of Brothers is really well shot. This is one of the best shot episodes, period.
Mm.
I'm not actually sure who the director was on this one, but when he's driving through the town, you've got the fires, you've got bodies lined up by the side of it, you got troops pulling engines out of wrecked vehicles, and it just feels like a town under siege. It just has that feeling of a kind of hopelessness. It feels almost medieval. I'm just looking at some scenes of it now, and you've got the muddy streets, and if it weren't for the Jeeps part there, this could be something out of bloody Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's that sort of it has that kind of a look and a feel to it.
Bastogne, it is a silly place.
Without the coconuts, obviously.
Yeah, there is a lovely shot as well, where I think it's from the viewpoint of the Jeep as well, on the back of the Jeep. And we've all seen Call of Duty and Medal of Honor as well, and they nick this type of thing where you're being fed lines as to what is actually going on, and then the camera is panning around the whole scene, and you're seeing guys walk out, you're seeing guys injured, you're seeing guys pilfering stuff, and then you're leading up to your set piece of the church, and it's just a good placement. It's giving you a whole scope within a couple of seconds of what is actually going on, because they're blocked off as well, aren't they? They have no way out.
This is part of what they're trapped behind. Basically, you've got the little town of Bastogne and the forest where they are, and that's it.
Yeah. What do you guys think of the pace of this episode now that we've got the church and we meet the nurse? Do you feel like this interrupts everything, or is this a good part of the episodes that we have? Because we flick back to this place a couple of times, don't we?
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it feels out of place at first, but it actually needs it, because I don't think if you spent the entire time in the forests, I don't think those moments would have the same impact.
Mm-hmm.
We as the audience would grow used to it almost. It would become, well, that's just what this is. But when you stick your head above a power pit, as it were, when we go back here and we see the nurse, we see the town a little bit there. Every time you go back, then it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. It kind of, because literally physically following him, and so when he's going back to the town, that's the audience goes with him. But Andy, I think you're dead on about how it almost gives you that little break, and it's different too, right? Not right here so much, but later there's a major battle starting, and then somebody gets hit, and you leave. The audience leaves as these tanks and half-tracks are rolling towards you, and it's kind of cool to see that other perspective. And I do think it kind of paces it well, and ultimately, the character side, I think, is why this episode is so strong, and seeing that more than the action, which is always good, and there's episodes that have a lot more of it. And I think the interactions back here, with the nurse and just the other wound in the overall situation really adds to you getting to see what Doc Rowe really goes through.
Because they're in dire straits as well, aren't they? They have no supplies.
Oh, they're still. Again, this is all part of the Battle of the Bulge. This was the last German offensive of the war. So these guys are completely surrounded. The Germans have completely encircled them and are trying to push outwards. And you've also got American and British forces trying to push in at the same time. But yeah, conventional wisdom says that once you're surrounded like that, you're kind of fucked because your supply lines are gone. And then it's just you're effectively under siege.
Yeah. I seem to remember reading a report on this episode as to when it first came out. People weren't impressed with it because they were expecting more of the fighting of the Battle of the Bulge. And yet what they got was a first-person view of a medic. And they didn't like that. Or certain people didn't like that.
I love that because at the end of the day, there's a whole film about the Battle of the Bulge. There's several films.
Yeah.
And there's the whole pattern film. But still, this is what I want. I want to see it from that perspective. Because again, the thing about the Second World War in general is it's too big for us to really get our heads around. I mean, we can talk about the big battles and Churchill and Hitler and stuff like that, but to really kind of get your head around it, it's just too big to comprehend. If you want to understand it really, you need to be down at this sort of a perspective, the human perspective that we can follow. And that's one of the things Band of Brothers does so well, is it not only gives you a human perspective, it gives you several. It gives you a little taste of all these bits. We're seeing it as a medic today. Last week, we were seeing it as a battalion commander. Next week, I don't know what next week's episode is. I can't remember. But, it's someone else. And hell, it's there's a saying, understanding is a three-edged sword, your side, their side, and the truth. The more perspectives you could take into it, the greater the truth that you're perceiving. Well, that sounded almost Zen, didn't it?
Powerful. Damn.
I have my legs crossed now. I just thought I'd let you know.
You see, that is why I don't have my White Russian here. If I had that, I wouldn't have to deal with this sort of stuff.
Well, they're boiling old bandages in this scene as well, aren't they?
Oh, and bed sheets and stuff, yeah.
I think that was the bit that hit home for me. You realise, I get the using bed sheets. They're out of bandages, so they're using bed sheets, but they're boiling old stuff. This has come off other guys, and they're boiling it. Why? I get it, but that's what brings the horror home. I feel that it's subtle things like that you don't really think about. You think aid stations and where you're retreated back to get help, they would have all the supplies, and yet they don't. It just blows me away. It really does.
I mean, not to get too terribly maudlin with the world as it is today, but you really think people who send people to war have to have had should have been forced to have that experience before they make that call. It's like you need to see that, to be there, to see them boiling secondhand bandages because they haven't got anything else, to see them dealing with trench foot, no winter clothing, to worst possible situation you could be in. If you can experience all that and then still say, actually, this is still the right thing to do, fine, I'm on board with that. But until you've got that, really should just shut your fucking face.
Yeah, that's right. Rowe managed to get some boots for...
Yes.
Who's he? He was getting them for Toy, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was Toy, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe Toy.
So he gets that. They end up he gets driven back to the line. It's just a scary thing of, okay, right, you're going back to the line, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? I know
we do meet the nurse as well.
Yeah, we meet the nurse. We get the chocolate as well.
We get the chocolate, yeah. Chocolat?
I think I also have a soft spot for Rowe because he's the whole Cajun thing. Gambit was my favorite X-Man growing up. I don't know if you guys were like a comics at all, but Gambit's, that Cajun dude. I love that guy.
I will say Rowe is a lot less creepy than Gambit is, though.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
See, all this is going over my head. I don't know anything about the X-Men whatsoever.
No. You're not missing that much with the way the movies have gone.
Nah.
You also have the black nurse in there as well, and something I only picked up on this watch is his reaction to her, because again, think about where he is, where he's from at that time.
Yeah,
it's a shock to him, isn't it?
Yeah. Louisiana in the 1940s, not the most progressive place in the world, probably.
It's really not, but I like the fact they've referenced it without drawing attention to it overtly. There's not a big deal made of it. There's not a big speech. I mean, later on he just asks her, what's her deal? And she goes, well, she came here for the same reason I came here, to help. But it's just a moment when he walks in there and he sees her and then he just stops. And I just think it's a really nice little touch to show that, again, for lack of a better term, the world wasn't black and white back then. It wasn't just us against the Nazis like that. There was other prejudices and stuff like that going on. And it, again, given where he came from, Louisiana, growing up in the 1920s and 30s, that would have been a shock to him.
Yeah. He does kind of take a check as to where he is as well, doesn't he?
Well, he doesn't say anything, but you can get the impression that he's fighting down his prejudices.
Yeah.
You know, his first reaction is, "What are you doing here? Why?" You know, something like that. But he doesn't. He recognizes that she is there to help. And again, I think that adds to his character.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Well made. I think definitely. Right. I want to talk about this next scene that's coming up. Let's talk about this scene as a whole, because we're taken back to the front line and we meet a group of guys just going to go out on the combat patrol.
Yeah. And
this is the scene where we haven't bumped into Julian yet. He asked to lead the line, and he's a replacement.
He was in Heffron's foxhole earlier, but this is like the first time we're really seeing him.
Yeah.
You get the sense he's kind of a little bit gung ho.
Well, he wants the action. Does he want the action? Does he want to be respected?
I would have thought it'd be the respect, isn't it? He's trying to prove himself to the older guys. Didn't you say, Josh? Is that kind of a...
For sure. I mean, he's dropped into the middle of a company it's filled with acclaimed veterans of D-Day, Market Garden, and not like that they look down on you, but they kind of do. Like you're just the new guy, you're the replacement, and especially, Babe had kind of taken him under his wing. Obviously, like we see the effects of that, but I'm sure he kind of wants to show his part, do his part to be a part of this brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So the combat patrol goes off, and once again, it's a beautifully all this is done on a one studio as well. This isn't out in the open, is it? This is all done. It's Pinewood, is it?
I think so. Yeah. This was all shot on a studio. This is a sound
shit.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Well, despite the propaganda you might have heard, the weather here is not always like that.
Yeah, I just assumed they went outside. If you want to film rain and crappy weather and fog, you just go to England.
That is it. Yeah, pretty much 90% of the time. Every now and again, we do get like a sunny
the only time
day.
it doesn't is when you really need it to.
Yeah, when your rhubarb needs watering. Then you're fucked.
Euphemism?
No, not this time. No. Yeah, so this is all beautifully shot on a set, which just blows my mind. But they walk off, and the medic is told, just hang back a little bit, and they walk off, and it just disappears into the fog, and you're just waiting for something to kick off. And this is another beautiful Dyke moment. I don't know if you guys want to take us through this Dyke moment. Just get your boots out and kick him a little bit more.
Oh, after you, Josh. Guests first.
This piece of shit. They get contact. Honor immediately. Julian's hit drops in an opening, and they're relatively short range, so they're pinned. They're trying to get in. Dyke immediately turns tail. I got to get to the CP. I mean, just the worst. He's the anti-Winters. He's the opposite of Winters.
He really is. He is everything Winters is not.
Oh God. And this is pretty brutal. When you first talked in the intro, Andy, about one of the most brutal deaths, I didn't know if you were talking about this or the one at the end, because this one's pretty bad.
This is the one I was talking about.
Yeah, I thought
because
so.
It's the fact. So firstly, he's shot, and this reminds me a lot of Vin Diesel in Saving Private Ryan.
Totally.
But it's that sense. He's alive. He is less than 2 feet away from you, and you can't get to him, and he's bleeding out in front of you.
And Julian,
the wound is
yelling.
The prosthetic they use for the wound is nasty. You can see his throat is open up there, and I won't lie. I paused it for a minute. I went and got a drink. I was just like, yeah, I need to take a moment from that because that is hard to look at. And it's just, he's there and they're saying, I can get him, Sarge, I can get him. Every time he tries to move, trailer bullets comes by. They're going, don't move. If you don't move, they'll stop shooting. And it's just hard to watch. You know, it's just brutal. You know, he starts coughing up blood and the guy's pleading with him to stop moving. It's so close and so far. And it's, yeah, I mean, I can't think of one more brutal than this, just in terms of difficult to watch.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, there's other ones that later, there's bloodier ones, there's ones which have more dramatic or emotional impact, but it's still, this was
awful inevitability of just watching it and knowing you can't do anything, they can't do anything. This is just gonna, and then they have to, not only that, but then they have to pull back.
Yeah.
And they have to leave him there to die alone in that little clearing. Oof,
I mean, you remember earlier on as well when he stumbled upon the bodies, the frozen bodies, when Roe was going around.
Yeah, that's what he is. A week later.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, I mean, we also hear later on, you got Heffron upset that he wasn't able to get his stuff because, now he's like, the Krauts are just going to strip his body. I was going to send it back to his mom. And it's, that whole thing, it cuts right into you,
Yeah. And that wound is brutal. The camera, it's like right in the front of his neck, just kind of a weird tangent, but my one of my buddies, another lieutenant, we actually lived together when we were living stateside, but he got shot in the neck in Afghanistan, and perfect, unbelievable timing. Literally, he had turned his head backwards. He was on a patrol. Ambush out of nowhere. A round went clean through and through his neck and didn't hit a goddamn thing. Didn't hit an artery. Didn't hit the spinal column. I mean, obviously there's some bleeding, but he's fine. He just has a cool looking scar now.
Jesus Christ.
A lot luckier than Julian.
Because there's a lot of things to hit in the neck.
There's a lot of things, and there's not a lot of space.
No. Yeah, that's flipping hell, man.
Yeah, don't feel too bad for him. Absolutely no ill effects. And trust me, when a girl asks him at a bar, how'd you get that scar on your neck? Oh, I got shot in the throat in Afghanistan. Yeah, it's done well for him.
Jesus, yeah, he must be getting tail every night.
Deservedly so.
Flipping hell, yeah. So this is one of the scenes where I think if the doc had been there, he would have been diving straight out onto him, trying to get to him straight away. And the Germans were using him as bait just to draw them out, to take more bodies out. And the thing that really fucking startles me about this is the dike, where he walks back. He walks past the dock, doesn't mention that there's a man injured down there. He doesn't say that at all. And you think, you piece of shit. You fucking all he's doing, he's thinking about himself and he's thinking about walking away from the most dangerous part of that day. And
not only does he leave in that situation, but the other thing he does by leaving is he takes himself out of the command of that situation. Lipton has to step up, and now Lipton has to have the burden of making the right call of getting the rest of that patrol out of there so they don't lose any more people. But now that weight is on him instead of who it should be on, the goddamn officer who leaves and puts him in that situation, which is just ugh.
Yeah.
Dyke.
Fucking scumbag. If this was any other movie, he'd be eaten by a dragon at some point, wouldn't he? He's the guy on the
we could only hope, yeah.
That gets eaten by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. But yeah, they have to fall back because they are being ambushed, and Winters has to be told they couldn't get him. they had another patrol go out and try and get him, but they couldn't get to him. And all the way through this, you got Doc just sat there. He's sat away from the men, as if he doesn't want to get to know them or want to be part of that group. He's a little bit off them, if you know what I mean. The guys in the foxholes fighting, they're all together. They're all either joking, laughing, crying together. They're injured together. They do everything together. For me, he's a bit reserved in that. He doesn't quite get in there with them. He's always on the periphery of what they're doing.
I don't think he has the opportunity to, though, because again, as you said, while these guys are sitting in their foxholes, he's got to run between them all. He's got to make sure the medical supplies are up. He just doesn't have anyone to do that with him. The other Doc is out doing it. The other companies or other battalions. So he just doesn't have the ability to do it. And in addition, these people, when they get hit, when they got wounded, he's the one who's got to be there to fix them up, to get your hands inside there and, close off arteries or try and do what he can do.
Yeah.
Again, you're seeing as this episode progresses, it's the PTSD's kind of catching up with him. And he's becoming more and more withdrawn as the episode goes on.
Yeah, see, I can see that. I can also see him not wanting to get attached to anyone, just in case. But I suppose the inevitability of him running in between the foxholes, if anyone's gonna know everyone, apart from Winters, it's gonna be him, isn't it?
Mm.
He's gonna know it absolutely. He's gonna know shit on people. He's gonna know jokes about other people that they don't know about. He's gonna know absolutely everything. He's gonna be their little bird that flies around. Yeah.
I think a lot of. I agree. I think a lot of this episode is it's Roe getting to what could have been his breaking point, and the coin comes up right for him, and because of whatever about him, he's able to overcome it after seeing all this awful shit, dealing with these casualties over and over. I mean, you see him rattled when they try to get him out later out of his hole to try to go deal with this casualty. Then having this connection with that nurse, this fleeting thing, and that tragedy. Yeah. And then, but what he comes back, and then that final scene, I don't want to get all ahead of it, but I mean, that's what we're talking about. When he calls Heffron Babe, he never used anybody's nickname. He sits there and he kind of shoots shit, makes a joke with him. And it's him probably getting to that point where, yeah, there probably was a lot of fear of like, I can't get too close to these people that I'm going to lose. Like a lot of these people are going to die under my care, and then getting to the point where it's like, okay, there's no time for that. These are the people I'm with. These are my brothers. I'm going to do everything I can, and what happens is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's always how I kind of looked at it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's that, again, in this sort of a situation as well, I can imagine there would be an instance where he would have to choose who would live and who would die. It's like, I can help one of you, and you don't want to be in that sort of a situation.
Yeah.
So Doc now is on the hunt again. He's still on the scrounge, trying to find bits and bobs all over the place. He thinks he bumps into Heffron, but he bumps into Toy. This is where I got their names totally mixed up. I had to really dive and pause everything and check their names and check their faces to work out who it was. Because if you miss it, then you think he's talking to someone else completely different. And yet he bumps into Toy. He's still struggling with his trench foot, and he's looking for Heffron. He finds Heffron later on in a foxhole. He bumps into him, and he's really cut up. He's fucked. From the death of Julian.
Yeah, that was just that whole scene was just messed up.
Yeah. So he ends up breaking out his chocolate that he got from the nurse.
Chocolat. Mm.
And I tell you what, it must have felt like golden honey just poured into his mouth at that point, where he's just had wet socks fed to him for the last week or so. He's been on proper rations, and then you end up with someone giving you chocolate. I would have kissed him on the face right there and then.
Yeah, I mean, you can just imagine the smell of that in the foxhole. Just that chocolate or something would have been unreal.
Oh yeah,
like some gift from the gods.
Yeah, well, they end up hunkering down in that foxhole, don't they? And
well, yeah, you got Heffron saying about how he wanted to get Julian's kit, send it back to his mum, but he's concerned the Germans are going to strip him and all that, and Nell just trying to calm him down. But yeah,
and well, this is one of the things that not that I've struggled with, but whenever I go camping, I find it really hard to get out my sleeping bag the next morning because it's so frigging cold when you get out there. And these dudes have been sleeping out there. And
the Green Jackets would be so disappointed in you, Elton.
Screw them losers. Bring it on. I don't care. But when we go camping and you get out, you sat there and you've been laying in that tent all night and it's full of body heat, isn't it? And then all of a sudden you make that first toe outside on the dewy grass outside. I wouldn't survive 2 seconds here because these bastards they're covered in snow, and watching them crawl out of these foxholes, it looks like death. It looks so painful crawling out these foxholes onto snow. Who goes camping? We go camping and we get pissed off if it's raining because it's England. It's going to be raining all the time. But snow? No, thank you. And he's been snuggling up with his mates all night, and is an explosion in the distance that wakes him up. I think it is.
Well, yeah, there's a sound, and when he gets out and he steps outside, the sun is shining. What is this strange orb in the sky?
Which means they can have a supply drop.
Yeah, you get some P-47s flying overhead.
What was the deal with the gunshots from the planes?
Well, you see, at first I thought they'd mistaken them for the Germans. Then I thought they were just trying to clear them out of the way for the drop. But I think that shooting at them is a dangerous way to warn them away. So I think they just mistook them for Germans or were being dicks.
I think they thought they were Germans. Because, I mean, think about it. If these guys on foot are stumbling into each other's trenches, for sure, these fucking pilots can't tell, like, where exactly the line is,
Yeah, but that's... Run away! Run away!
But we do get the beautiful sight of the drop landing on the town.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a couple of ropey CGI parachutes there.
A little CGI, but you know what? Since it's like 16 years old at this point, I'll allow it.
I can forgive that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, yeah, you got all the basically parachutes dropping all over Bastogne with supplies, and everyone just running out to grab whatever.
And don't worry, if that got your hopes up too much, this episode's about to crush them again.
Yeah, yes, exactly. We've raised your hopes and dash them quite expertly, sir.
Yeah, in case you're smiling now, let's have another horrible, gruesome death.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, okay. Someone else walk me through this, because, yeah, this is grim.
Yeah. Well, so he goes back, because the drop is centered around the town, so Doc's going to get supplies. He gets to the church. There's a guy hurt real bad, coming in, arterial bleeding, and he just kind of jumps in to try to help those, Nurse Renee and whatever the other nurse's name is from the Congo. Yeah. And this reminds me of the only other thing I've seen this in was Black Hawk Down. There's a scene where he's reaching up into the wound to try to get an artery, and it's just brutal. I mean, this isn't quite as bad as the Julian part, and you don't know him, but he springs in action because that's what he's trained for, and that's what he's there to do, and it's just hopeless. And this guy, they lose him, and just the anger and the frustration at how little, I'm sure in his mind, he feels like he can do to help, and it really sets up the next beat really well when it's them sitting outside talking. That's why, even though it's so out of the blue, I really feel like it's earned. Like these little. I am never one for romance in my movies, especially my war movies, but this little kind of interaction, I think, really does a lot for the character of Doc Rowe.
And the thing as well is there isn't really a romance there. There is a bonding, a connection.
Right.
But there is no romantic overtures whatsoever, other than the smile and the chocolate, really. it's really just two people who are maybe the only two people there who have an understanding what the other one's going through. You know, and I think that's just what works really well with that. It's not like fucking Pearl Harbor, where let's just not get started on Pearl Harbor. But it's like you said, it's earned, but it's just a tender little. It's a moment of calm, you know.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's
pardon my shitty chauvinism. I just, light flirting. I interpret this, that kind of hot Belgian girl. So yeah, I bought into a little bit.
A bit of shipping going on there. Yeah.
Yeah. All the sexy music starts happening out. Yeah. She takes off her headdress. No, stop it.
The end of the episode has jumped the shark.
Yeah. I took this as it's the moments that they can snatch in the day. Every moment of their day is full with either trying to get supplies, helping out other people, speaking to other people about their ailments, or trying to repair people. And the little snippets that they can get through the day where they can sit down. If they were English, they'd have a cup of tea, but they don't. They have little bits of chocolate instead. And it's them just trying to grab them and make the most of them as well. And trying to spread them out as much as they can, elongate them and enjoy it for as long as they can, because it is shown in this scene. That moment that they have their brief little conversation and then bang, she's back into action again because someone else is rocking up injured.
I really liked when, he's saying, you're a good nurse, you have a gift, and she's like, it's not a gift, it's a curse. And I just like the way that was delivered there. It's beautifully, beautifully acted. Again, I don't know if these guys have been in anything else. They're certainly not big name stars, but it's so well done, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Do you know what bit that really got me about this? There's no speaking in it whatsoever. This tiny little bit. It's after the guy dies on the table, and Roe gets really cross with it. He's lost another guy, and he slams the stuff down, and he's pissed off. He's so cheesed off, and then he catches himself and he looks her straight in the eye, and it's if she doesn't say anything to him, he doesn't say anything to her, but he realizes, hang on, she does this all day, every day. She's dealing with that all the time. She's probably seeing more people than he is because she's the person that they go back to. And he catches himself and then realizes, and it's like, oh, fuck, where am I? I forgot myself. And yeah, that's just dramatic. But there we go. So they have their little thing. He goes back to the front line again. And we're confronted with Buck, and he's losing it even more. He's slowly working his way down this rabbit hole.
I just wanted to say there was a really good shot in that transition just after the Buck scene, where it goes from nighttime to daytime in a single shot. And I know it's just because it's in the studio and they can raise the lights, but it was really well done.
Is that across the field?
Yeah, it's after the. Well, I mean, let's talk about the Buck scene first, and I'll talk about that scene in a second. But yeah, you got Buck, and he's with Garnier
and Babe.
And Babe, yeah, talking about the Legionnaires, the Romans, when the barbarian horde came through.
He is out there, man. Garnier's like, fucking Christ, Buck, fucking really, gosh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's losing it. Doc comes along with more supplies. He just gives them a blanket, doesn't he?
Well, I like how he gives them a blanket and just makes sure he puts it on Buck and just kind of gives them a pat on the shoulders. I think Doc can see what's going on there.
Yeah, because there's impending doom across the way, isn't there? There's smoke just billowing up as well. Mm-hmm. Is it tanks and tractor-wheeled machines
Not yet.
coming towards them?
No, I don't think it's yet. It's when it comes light. I mean, it's just. I think it's just what's across. That's where the German lines are effectively.
Yeah, because then Lipton has to spring into action, then doesn't he? Because Dyke's nowhere to be seen.
Oh no, that's when you can start hearing the engines coming and everything, can't you? Yeah, and Yeah, it's kind of building to that crescendo, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there were smoke grenades.
Right, yeah, because I couldn't work out what they were. I could hear engine noises. I could hear commotion going on. I could see the smoke. I couldn't work out where that smoke was coming from, though.
Most of these era tanks, especially the Germans, they had smoke generators built into them, so they would actually pump that as a concealment.
Fuckers.
Yeah, I don't think it was just the Germans. I think it's kind of just a common strategy thing.
Yeah. Fucking hell, man.
Yeah. Intimidating, a goddamn giant smoking armored behemoth thundering towards you, and you guys are sitting there with 30 cal machine guns, and they say it. They're like, "What the hell are we supposed to do with that thing?" You know, it's like, nothing's like, hold your fire. And this is cool how this battle, like, this opens up, and it's like, wow, this is going to be a raging battle we're about to see, and then Smokey gets hit, and again, we the audience, like, we leave because we're getting Smokey back to the aid station.
Well, this is also the bit where he's, they're shouting for the doc, and he doesn't come initially. He's away with it, and I think Lipton jumps in with him and says, "Doc, go." And he goes, "Yeah, all right." He goes, "No, not all right. Lie down. Go." And it's the way he moves, where his body moves while his mind's still not there. It's like he's on autopilot, and it kind of shows that sense of, he on an instinctual level knows what he's got to do.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine sat in a foxhole for a little while, your whole body would go cold anyway, wouldn't it? And it would be really hard to get motivated to get up, let alone to get run across a field of battle. And like you say, he's probably on autopilot for that situation anyway. And I think it comes across really well because Lipton's there. He's raring to go. He's trying to get other people moving, and yet you kind of can see that Roe wants to move, and yet his body won't let him. Yeah, scary stuff.
And I think it's part of that too. We're seeing, like, throughout this episode, Roe getting close to a point where, like, he could reach his breaking point. Just seen too much, been through too much, and ultimately he gets through it. And then next episode we're seeing how that goes with Buck. Obviously already kind of getting set up here.
Yeah, the breaking point of Roe. I suppose, yeah. I hadn't really seen this episode like that. I was more interested in other people's breaking point. I think I was watching it from his perspective of other people's breaking points. But yeah, I suppose he is reaching that. And like you said earlier on, with him almost touching out and going back to Bastogne and the town, it gives him a breather of some sorts. A kind of home base.
Almost, but I think in a strange way that might have made it a bit harder for him. Because if you're in that space and all you're focused on is that, on and on and on and on and on, that's that. But then when you go away from it and you suddenly see there's this other bit out there, it makes it a lot harder to go back. Yeah, you have to go back. If you're there all the time, that's it. That's what you're living at the moment. But I mean, again, I'm just watching him, again, administering an IV into Toya. It's just a professionalism. Once he's going, he is totally professional. He's on autopilot. There's gunshots going off around him. There's the tanks in the background, but he's solely focused on just the task at hand there.
And I guess let me rephrase it. I don't think breaking point is the right word. He is approaching whatever you want to call it, that moment, the bottom, the rock bottom, I guess, if you want to think of it that way, that's going to decide, is he going to get through this or not? Does he have the fortitude, of dealing with the casualties after casualties and the tragedies? And ultimately we see that he does, but it's wearing on him, and we're really seeing that both on the line and back in the town. Yeah. I think one thing that helps the actor that's playing him as well, he's one of the youngest looking ones out there compared to all the other guys that are playing all these soldiers.
You say that. He's certainly the youngest of the ones we have since episode 1 in terms of looks.
Yeah.
But then once we got the replacements, and all of a sudden, I mean, I'm certainly the age now where anyone under 20 is like looks 12 to me. It's just if under 25, you just look like you're 12-year-old. And I imagine that's what they're going through there. All these replacements coming through it. So it's like, what are you, 12?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then he's got to patch these guys up that look like kids, look like first years that are rocking up.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, that's going to be playing with. But one thing that Josh said was interesting, where the battle is just about to start, and then we leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose I hadn't noticed that until us talking about it right now. I was living it, I was watching it, but you need someone else to tell me that, yeah, we're just about to start a fight, and then we go. But it's a good way of making a movie where you don't have to have that expense of the battle. But then again, we know what the battles are like because we've already done 3 or 4 of these battles anyway. So they're going to go down a similar sort of way. And yet, the more interesting thing is someone injured and dealing with that. And how do they deal with that? And that is more interesting than another gunfight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the nice things about this episode. It is typically very rare in shows of this nature to follow the medic or the non-combatant or it's usually about the big heroes, the main leads. I mean, if this was a typical show of that sort, it would have just been following Winters throughout our tour. We wouldn't have done these touching on other characters or anything like that.
Yeah. Right, so they grab him. He's injured. They take him back, and he's the guy that's paralyzed, isn't he? He got shot through the back.
I don't think he is. I don't think the actual character is the actual person was paralyzed, but he was shot in the back, and he couldn't walk at this point.
I actually read up on it. He was paralyzed.
Was
he? Eventually, he was in the hospital for months and months and months till after the war. Eventually recovered full function, although had a lot of pain through his life. But yeah, I wondered the same thing. Yeah. I was like, is he really paralyzed, or is he? So yeah, initially paralyzed.
Wow. Just blows my mind every single time. Single thing about it. We get back to the front line again, and they're cooking up grub. One thing I like about this, they're cooking up grub, and everyone's queuing up for grub, but Doc or Ro gets his food handed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier on before, he's flipping between everyone. He's helping everyone out, so he's one of the most important people there because if you get hit, you need him there. And he doesn't queue for his food. Someone else brings it to him. It's just no, we look after him, he's looking after us type thing. It's very subtle, but it's there. I love it.
You know who got their food first? Guarantee it was Dyke. That piece of shit. Cut the line. Got his food. Went back to his foxhole.
Do you reckon he even cut the line? I maybe Lipton brought it to him.
Yeah, maybe.
And then had to go back and queue up for his own.
Worst.
Piece of shit. But then we get the general turn up, and he has a message. This comes from. Who does this come from? This note come from?
General McAuliffe.
Right, and this is about the Germans asking for the total surrender. And,
yes.
And the reply was?
Nuts!
Which I love. Fucking love that. Because it's Christmas
it's a shame.
now, isn't it?
It's a shame the British didn't respond, because I'm sure it'd be somewhat more colourful.
By Jove, I don't think we should actually surrender. That's not going to happen. That's just not cricket.
Fight on for king and country.
Isn't it, though? Standard.
So now we have Winters. He comes walking out. We have the Germans singing Silent Night just across the way, which adds to their scariness, I suppose. Their faceless scariness that they're singing these beautiful carols.
Well, I think it adds to that. My reading of it is it's probably the worst thing that can happen in this situation is it humanizes them. Because if you're there and your job is to kill Germans, the last thing you want to do is to think of them as people who share the same songs as you do, who celebrate the same Christmases as you do. And this all goes back as well to in the First World War, the Christmas truce, Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I love that. Such a great story.
Yeah.
So in World War One, at Christmas, I think it was 1914, maybe 1915. But anyway,
Because the generals didn't let him do it again after that.
Oh, they definitely didn't let him do it. There's actually a very good film about it, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But if I do remember it, I'll tell you guys.
Is it the animated one?
No, it's a live action film.
Oh, there's a good animated one as well.
It's a live action one. It's a French film, but with English and German speakers in there as well. But yeah, it's this whole the troops, not the officers, the troops decided on Christmas to stop. They went and exchanged gifts, played football. Just these weren't the enemy. They showed pictures of their loved ones to each other, and the generals were terrified that the soldiers wouldn't fight after that. And get it all going on. And as you say, they didn't allow it again later on. But, hearing that coming across would have been really hard for these guys, I'd imagine. Because, then, A, that they're not so different from you, but B, you still have to go and kill them.
Yeah. Well, this lulls the viewer into a false sense of security as well, because we know it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve night. We've got Buck, who's just been dumped by his girlfriend, which, the guy's living on the edge at the moment. He's on the raggedy edge. And then his bird turns around and says, do you know what? Nah, I'm all right. And, that's got to break a man anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously that's something he's been carrying around for a while. Not the picture, I mean, that news. Because he wouldn't have received any news in Bastogne, I'd have thought.
No.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's been eating him up at least since they've been there. And again, bottling stuff like that up, it's just going to make it even harder.
Yeah. They're sharing cigarettes as well. Lucky Strikes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Which were I think they were the preferred cigarette out there, weren't they?
They used to issue them to the guys. They came with your rations. Yeah, you got a pack of smokes in every day's meals.
Oh, did
interesting note. Interesting sidebar. They Coca-Cola got around sugar rationing by effectively providing drinks for the military.
Yeah, Lucky Strikes. That was the first pack of cigarettes I ever bought.
Because of Band of Brothers.
It was before that. I smoked a little bit young, but I just thought they were a badass from always watching like the old World War II movies. I wanted to be badass too. Fucking stupid me at 17 smoking unfiltered Lucky Strikes.
Well, their advertising idea worked.
Yeah, worked on me.
Yeah. They thought, one day we'll handle these to everyone having a meal every single day during the war. And then, 40 years later, someone else have these and go, oh, do you know what? They look badass. I'll have some of them. And it worked. And they're just sat there in their massive castle full of money, rubbing their hands and going, yep, there we go. Told you.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah. We also have Popeye and Winters and Nixon. And there's someone else there as well. I can't remember who it was, but they're
Harry Welsh, one of the other officers. He's the one that gets hit.
Right. I thought that was Popeye.
No, it's Harry Welsh. He was the guy, he was the one that they were talking about. He carried around his silk parachute the whole time through Normandy.
Yeah.
He was one of the platoon commanders. I think he still is at this point.
Right. Oh, okay. Right. Gotcha. And they've got a little fire going in their little dell. Was it?
like where fairies live?
Yeah.
Well, they're clearly away with them at the moment, aren't they? They're so cold and just looking for a bit of escapism. And I suppose with it being Christmas Eve, are they thinking, nah, we're not going to fight on Christmas Eve, surely?
I think that's certainly what we as the audience are supposed to think.
Yeah, it does feel the episode has been brutal enough that you kind of feel. You're right. Like I think you just said that false sense of security. All right, well, it's can't get worse than this, right?
Yeah, and it being Christmas Eve and there's carols singing, and then they go and fucking drop them on them again. And you think, for fuck's sake, man! So all hell breaks out again, and Harry gets hit. He ends up with a tourniquet and morphine, and once that morphine hits him, is this where Rowe is struggling to get out of his pit again?
Yeah, this was when he's really struggling to get out.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just kind of hibernating there now, isn't he? Yeah, so it becomes a struggle more and more to get out of his pit. But he applies a tourniquet, sticks out on him, and you can see the relief as soon as that morphine hits his body or his bloodstream. It's just... And I think that was his last morphine that he had on him. So yeah, he's down to no more morphine now. He gets taken away. Winters... Oh, what happens to Winters now? Oh,
Winters saw. He sees what's going on with Roe. That he is... This is my take on it, at least, that Roe might be getting to that point. And he says, go into town, get a hot meal. Like, he can't afford to lose Roe, mentally or physically. So that's he saw that delay, building, and I think that's why he dispatches him into town.
Well, this is why Winters is so good, because he could have torn strips off of him for that, couldn't he?
Yeah. I can't say enough about Winters. I was a little bummed, man. I was listening to the last episode. I would have loved. I would have just raved on him the whole time. I absolutely love Winters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's almost on the verge of being a Mary Sue type character, and then you realize he's a real person.
Yeah. I mean, literally, like, he is the epitome. I think I already said this, but of just what I think a combat leader should be, how they should act, how they, everything he does. It's awesome.
Yeah. So we've just been dropped on. It's Christmas Eve. We think everything's going to be fine. We've just had another person injured. And then we head back to town, and it can't get any worse than that, surely. It's going to be all right in the town, isn't it? Please, someone tell me it's going to be all right in the town.
Well, of course, the town has been the safe haven, isn't it? It's home base, effectively. It's where the lovely the lovely Belgian nurse is.
Yeah, that's where chocolate comes from, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate is grown in Bastogne.
Yeah,
but yeah,
this place looks like a hellscape.
I mean, I know we were talking a bit at the beginning about the Battle of Britain. This bit is a lot like a sequence in the Battle of Britain when one of the pilots goes off to help dig out a family, and he gets back when his family had been in a church, and the church gets hit by a bomb while he's gone. Mm-hmm. Same thing's happened here. Bombs hit the church, and you just got people staggering out of it, and it's just, well, it literally is a war zone.
Yeah. And he finds a nurse's, what would you call that? I know it's not their hat, is it? It's
like a headscarf, sort of.
Yeah.
Not headscarf. It's like
bandana.
They got a bandana around their heads. Yeah.
Yeah. Showing what group they're with when they go touring. But yeah, he finds a headscarf, which is a nurse's headscarf. So we're naturally believe that it's his nurse's headscarf. So all the good that she's done has just been wiped out. That's, she's gone. She's not there anymore.
I mean, her death. What? We don't see a body. We don't see anything like that. We don't even see her die, as it were. But that moment is really hard as well.
Yeah.
It's like that one small moment that, the little bit of, I don't want to say joy, but a little bit of relief he'd found. This little bit of tranquility he'd found in Bastogne had just been snuffed out.
Yeah. Well, Josh, you said it earlier on about Rose's breaking point, and then him coming back and speaking to Babe and mentioning his nickname and realizing, no, these are my brothers, and I've got to deal with these guys.
Yeah.
Would you say the nurse's death is the trigger to, well, hang on, no, it's kind of the switch that switches him over to say, just go with it?
I think this was the point, the crucible, the moment that, everything just worse and worse and worse and rock bottom. And, he was already fragile. He was already wearing. And that's why Winters sent him back. Hey, go into town, have a hot meal, a little bit of a breather. And it's the exact opposite. It's a hellscape. And he sees, this person that he had this fleeting connection with is gone, as is every other wounded man that he had helped to treat that was in that church. They hadn't been evacuated. They're all gone. So anybody that he managed to save, to hang on to life, they're gone. And then, but what he does is then he walks back in a little detail right in the beginning of the episode. we saw Ro walking and come up across those frozen bodies and recoil instinctually at the horror of it. Now we see him walk past a frozen body in the snow. He doesn't even look. He goes over to Babe's foxhole. He sits there. He calls him Babe. He's through it. At this moment, mentally, whether or not he's physically going to make it, mentally this man is going to make it through war. Yeah. But he's not the same person. And that's something I really love. I really, I relate to. I mean, I know a lot of people that have had issues with PTSD and whatever, and it's a big topic nowadays. But regardless of whether you're diagnosed with PTSD, you're not the same. There's a change that happens. There's something you lose, whether it's innocence and empathy. You don't know what it is in Ro, but from this moment, okay, he's turned that corner. He's going to get through, but part of him is gone. Part of him stayed in Bastogne. But what came out of it was a person that is able to get through this war.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Totally agree with that. And it also has a nice bookend as well, because nice bookend? No, that's the wrong word, but it does bookend itself, because the last shot that we have is it comes out their foxhole, goes over the top, and you see the blood pools and the stains, and it goes to nice, bright, clear whites, almost as if that could be relating to his mind, his thought process.
I get what you're coming up with that. I mean, I think for the moment when that happens is, when he jumps in there with Heffron and he holds that, handkerchief in his hands for a moment and then just clicks and he just tears it and uses it as a bandage.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm a professional. I have a job to do. I will survive, effectively.
Yeah.
I will survive so these guys survive.
Yeah. And it does relate to the opening shot as well, because in the opening shot of the episode, he's walking through, he puts his hand down and he pricks his finger. Mm-hmm. And you get that blood and snow mixing on his hands, which goes back to the very last shot of the blood and snow, but then being cleansed, going up towards nice crisp white snow as well, with only a couple of footprints in it. So it's nice. It's bookended very well, I feel. And then you also get the narrative that his inner soul is not cleansed, but he's moving on from the blood and the mud and the snow onto pastures new from in himself. It's soul searching.
Yeah, well said. Like it.
Cool. Right, so then we close out. I've got some words here that I have to say from the last pieces of the episode. We have, on December the 26th, 1944, General Patton's Third Army broke through the German lines, allowing supplies to flow in and the wounded to be evacuated. The story of the Battle of the Bulge, as told today, is one of Patton coming to the rescue of the encircled 101st Airborne.
101st.
Yeah. No member of the 101st has ever agreed that the division needed to be rescued. That's it. I've got goosebumps. Oh, yeah. Someone just walked over my grave. And that is it. That's Bastogne. It's a bigger episode than what I thought it would be.
It's one of the, well, like you said, it's in my top three. It's in your top two.
Yeah.
It's one of the key episodes which makes Band of Brothers what it is.
Yeah. We do have one email. If you would, Josh, you're right to stay with us while I just read this out?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. This is from Doreen Kelly. And she says, hello, Bastogne. The Bastogne episode is almost indescribable in its despair, but I guess it did its job. Goodness knows what it would be like to live through. Watching the episode, I was almost shivering for so many reasons, not least due to the snowy conditions and the symptoms of exposure everyone was describing. What a hopeless situation, a terrible situation to live through, and an awful place to die. Bye for now, Doreen. Yeah, I was cold all the way through this. I did forget to mention that. I was frozen. I can't deal with the cold on the best of days. Even if I was watching this during a sunny day, I was frozen rigid during this. Just amazing. So, where do we head off after this? This is breaking point after this, isn't it? And
yeah,
the Lipton story.
Yep.
Which,
I mean, at one point we were thinking of doing these two back to back, but as you rightly say, it's a good thing we're not because there's a lot to cover here.
There's tons to cover, and I would say Breaking Point is my favourite episode. Possibly, yes. No, it is. It is my favourite episode. It's not the one I've seen the most. I think What We Fight For is the one I've seen the most for some weird reason. But this is my favourite episode. For the point of Lipton, I like his narrative all the way through it, and Spears as well.
Oh God, yeah, we get Judge Dredd back, don't we?
Yeah, Judge Dredd.
Judge Spears.
It might not be a dragon, but at least it's a sweet ending for Dyke. I love that.
Yeah,
you're relieved.
So, any final thoughts on this episode from you guys? Josh, have you got anything?
I think I've rambled plenty. I love it. It's definitely one of my favorites, and thanks again for having me on. This is a great pod. Glad you guys are doing the series. No,
you're more than welcome. Would you like to tout your wares, your podcast that you are always on?
Yeah, well, LSG Media, Liberty Street Geek Media. I am one of the lowly co-hosts. Less frequently on this time of year. I'm real busy with, unfortunately, real life stuff, but it's a great outfit. There's Dean Martin is the main host, and then there's 3 different co-hosts. And there's 2 or 3 people on an episode. They have the main one is the science fiction film podcast, and then they have a lot of other ones. They cover a lot of TV shows, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead. It's awesome. I have a blast being on. It's funny, occasionally insightful. It's a pretty good time, so maybe check it out if you have time.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I would. I'm subscribed to all of them, I think it is. So yeah, I'm kind of hooked on that sort of stuff. So I hear your voice regular on there with the X-Files and other little things that you like to chime in. So yeah, I would definitely send people over there. Andy, any final thoughts on this one?
I think, certainly in terms of, war films and, this sort of dramatic show, even as far as HBO shows, it's one of the most powerful hours of television ever. And yeah, it's the quintessential viewing. This is what Band of Brothers is about more than anything else. It's not about the battles. It's not about the big picture of a war. It's about the small stories. And I think this tells the small story the best.
Yeah. I can't see myself getting bored of this ever.
No. But equally so, I couldn't watch this too much because it is hard to watch.
Yeah.
This isn't like, you can just, something like Pacific Rim, you just throw it on and over again because, it's just monsters beating up robots. It's all good fun. No, this is hard to watch. So, but still, every time I watch it, a new appreciation for it and for the people that fought the war for us.
Yeah. Now, I feel this episode it can be a slog sometimes, but I think it's a slog worth doing. Mm-hmm. And I think the more and more I watch these episodes, the more I'm taking in from it and the subtleties that they have. And I'm just blown away by everything that they put on these hours. It's just they're cramming so much into these hours. And yeah, I can't see myself getting bored of this at all. But rightly so, you couldn't watch it day to day. There's just no way. I think you'd be screwing yourself over if you watch this too many times. Just ruining it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, Andy, have you got anything to plug while you're here then?
Well, yes. Obviously, you can catch myself and yourself on the Grand Prix podcast. Although, as of recording, I think we've got 2 weeks until the next race.
Yeah, nothing until the end of August at the moment.
Yeah, but then it's Belgium, Spa. It's going to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also catch me on Space Doc Jury, which is at spacedocjury.com and on iTunes and all of those places, where myself, Lee Medcalf, and Reverend Peter Organ have a vigorous discussion about the merits of various spacecraft.
Which, once again, is awesome. with myself, can I direct you to the Black Dog podcast? I do a review show with my good friends, Mr. Lee Metcalf, Darren Barnard, and Jim Moon. And it's like a film club where we get together, tell each other about the week that's just happened, and then take apart a film for our health or our wealth, I suppose. Also, we have Shonky Lab, which is at shonkylab.com, where I have a topic-based show where we can just talk about absolutely anything you want. Next episode is going to be about conspiracies, and that's going to be recorded on the 18th of August on Mixler. So pop along there. All the details will be on the Facebook group and such like that. So until next time out, until we see Band of Brothers and Breaking Point, I'd like to say thank you very much, Josh, for joining us for this. It's been awesome to have you on.
Thanks for having me, man. I had a blast.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, sir.
And Andy, thank you very much for joining me once again.
You're always welcome.
Good. And we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Going over.
Yeah, I love all that stuff because again, it's proper. Because there's none of this over and out bollocks. It's all proper clipped military talk, and it sounds cool.
It does.
That's awesome.
With that in mind, can I just get your opinion on another show then? Have you ever seen Over There?
No, I haven't. That's who produces that?
I've got it over in the corner. I can't see it at the moment. I don't know who produces it. I got 5 episodes into it and I had to stop. It just annoyed me. It was more like a soap than anything else.
Yeah,
it was FX. That was
all right. Yeah, it seemed. From what I heard about it, nobody really particularly pushed it to me, so I let that one slip by. I figured it would just piss me off if I watched it.
Yeah, don't go there. Don't go there. Good.
Right. Before we get onto the episode, can I ask you one more real quick thing, Elton?
Yeah, go on.
Because you watched Battle of Britain.
I did.
Very quickly, what did you think of it? Because we've been going on about you for this for like 6 episodes now.
Yeah. Battle of Britain. That was I couldn't. Okay. Hands up. If someone wants to steal my Windows now, I don't mind. I got a hooky episode of it, and I didn't have the subtitles on, so it was like watching The Enemy. It was brilliant. It was how it should have been. Just watch the Germans speak German, and you feel distance from them. But I thought it was brilliant. I thought for the time, the special effects that they used on there were amazing.
Well, a lot of it wasn't special effects, was it? I mean, that film is why we have the Battle of Britain Memorial flight.
Oh, yeah.
Because they got a load of the aircraft flying again, and then afterwards, the RAF kept them. So.
Yeah. I thought, that it was sparsely used, the special effects, but when they did use it, it was very, very good. And because there was a couple of times where an aeroplane was heading towards you, and then it was blown up, and it would fall quicker than it was actually flying. And you think, what happened there? I don't understand that. But I had so much fun with it. I really did. There was a point where someone was watching some anti-aircraft incendiaries go up in the air, flak into the sky, and someone came out with a pot of tea, and I just thought, oh man, that is amazing.
Or it's when the guy parachutes into the garden and the kid runs out with a box of cigarettes for him. Hey, thanks awfully, old chap.
He crashes. Hello everyone, welcome back to Band of Brothers. I am Elton, and this week I am joined by, as always, Andy.
Hello.
And we have Josh from LS Media. Sorry, LSG Media. What a fucking idiot. I always listen to that, and there's me screwing it up straight away.
Glad
Josh?
to be here. Yeah, hey, I've been enjoying your guys' work. It's been fantastic. And, gotta represent the other side of the pond on this one, so happy to be
come
along.
in and save us. Is what
That's
you
right.
said.
Just like we always do.
We're over halfway through, and you're coming. Don't worry, I'll tie this one off for you guys. Don't worry, it's all good.
Yeah, this is the first episode, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing happening in Band of Brothers before this episode.
It starts with episode 6, which is weird, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it starts with 6.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so I dragged you on this because I know that you love the Band of Brothers and you have affinity with all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to get another perspective. We've had lots of very posh English accents on here, so we thought we'd get a rather common accent on from now on. Why not? Dub it down a little bit. Why not?
That's what we're good for.
So, we got Bastogne. I can't remember, what was the last one? Is it Turning Point? Hang on. Where am I? Crossroads.
Hang about. Before we get over to that,
Yeah, go on.
can I just ask, because again, just for the listeners out there, another reason we brought Josh on is you have a somewhat unique perspective on the military. Would you like to share that?
Yeah. I was active duty. I was a United States Marine. I was an infantry officer. Was in from 2008 2013. Had a pretty active combat deployment to southern Afghanistan, down in Helmand, actually right next to the British AO. And was did a couple more training deployments after that, working with some other foreign nationals that were going to Afghanistan near where we were. I did a ship float, and training all over the place. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I have a little bit of that perspective. Certainly wasn't in any battles quite like Bastogne, but I guess it's a perspective.
Well, I know it does get cold in Afghanistan, but I don't think it quite gets to the levels we see here. But my question was, so having been in the active military today...
For a greenhouse.
Have you seen it, Josh?
I saw that as a kid. I remember at my dad's house, we used to watch, old, like, 50s, 60s, 70s, war movies. I probably haven't seen it for 20, 25 years. I don't know, a long time. I'd like to go back.
Okay, it's decided. We're doing a special at some point, when Elton. We'll do Band of
Nice.
No, that sounds... What did you think of it then, Andy, when you saw it?
I fucking love that film. I mean, I've grown up with it. Again, because growing up, I used to watch a lot of, like, 50s and 60s war movies, like Battle of the River Plate. It's one of my all-time favourites. Mm-hmm. Bridge on the River Kwai. Kind of a war movie, but I like all that. But yeah, Battle of Britain, and everyone's in it. You've got Michael Caine is in it, Ian McShane, Kenneth Moore, Christopher Plummer. It's just like a who's who was acting at the time. And the music, Ace's High March when Goering's inspecting the Luftwaffe at the beginning.
Yeah.
So fucking good.
Yeah, I think the only war movie I could think of that has more of a star-studded cast is probably Bridge Too Far, which is
which is kind of like the American version, almost, isn't it? You got Gene Hackman's in there. I think Clint Eastwood. Michael Caine's in that one as well.
He is.
Yeah, everyone's in it.
Because you have. I mean, they actually, unlike Band of Brothers, you do see more of the old Red Devils and their part and everything.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was reading about the Red Devils actually because I took a day trip up to Duxford Airdrome. Yeah, airfield.
Which is in Battle of Britain. You know when the hangar blows up?
Yes.
That's Duxford.
That is actual Duxford. Oh, okay, fine.
That's why when you go to Duxford, you have World War II hangar, World War II hangar, World War II hangar, no hangar. It's because they blew it up for the film.
Okay. Is that the one where he tells the woman to stop screaming and get control of herself, and then she just has a right go back at him?
It was to stop smoking. Goes, put that light out.
Oh, yes.
Don't you shout at me, Sergeant Major.
Yeah. I went there, and that airfield is just full of fucking Spitfires. There's tons of them. There's absolutely tons of them. There was a two-seater flying around when we were there, just giving us a flyby for no reason whatsoever. And in the hangars where they're fixing them, they've got some pristine versions of them. They must just keep them there. And
it's called the what's it called? I think it's the Historical Flying Club or something like that. But do you see a similar sort of unit dynamic to what you see in Band of Brothers in what you experienced, or is this something unique or from the time? Just how did that go?
Yeah, that's something that I think. What year did this come out?
It's 2001, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Like 3 years after Saving Private Ryan. So I love these things as a kid. I grew up. I was really into military history, devouring books, and then watching anything I could. My parents, I guess, would let me see. And then as I got older, watching it all. But then going back and watching again, post those kind of experiences. And that's something that I really, really love about this is that brotherhood and that bonding and, the humor and the blackest of times and that stuff. When it's done right, it's so powerful. And Band of Brothers does it great. And that's what it's like. I mean, there's a big difference between a unit that's been, in combat together and one that hasn't. There's always going to be a fraternity there, but it's really different. When I meet another Marine, see a sticker on a car or whatever, somebody brings it up, it's always, hey, Semper Fi, brother, shake hands. But the guys that you were, on those deployments with, it's it's a bond that it never breaks. And these guys, obviously, like I said, nothing of the level of liberating Europe, but these guys are doing reunions 50, 60, 70 years later until there's none of them left. It's that bond is unbreakable, and Band of Brothers does it great. And I'll tell you another. I've heard you mention it on one of the other episodes, but if anyone hasn't seen it, Generation Kill is another excellent miniseries. In particular, so that's a Marine recon unit in the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and that particular show portrays the way Marines, I guess any kind of infantry type unit, the way they talk, interact, joke, the sense of humor, how they act around each other, better than anything I've ever seen.
Right.
It's so if you want to know what it's really like, how the guys talk to each other, that is spot on.
I love Generation Kill. I think that is superb.
Oh yeah, I love it. And little side note because on occasion I dress up as a judge because, as you do, I've got a little unit which plays radio chatter, and the radio chatter all comes from Generation Kill.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, they do a great job like tying that in. That's all real stuff too. I've listened to it closely. It's like there's a 9-line. That's all these different actual radio formats.
Yeah, there's a couple of episodes I think on Generation Kill where it finishes and you have the credits and you just have the score.
Yeah, Fly. They got a couple of Spitfires. I think they've got a Hurricane. There's the Corsair. There's a load of aircraft in there. They actually did the recent maintenance overhaul on the Lancaster.
Yes.
Up there too.
Yeah, that was in there. They opened that to the public a little while ago. So you could actually walk through that, but that was all closed the last time I went there. But yeah, they're still cracking bits of kit.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you liked it though, because if you hadn't, I would be forced to kill you.
And what do they drop from in the first episode of Band of Brothers? What is the plane that they use on that?
C-47s, I think.
They have one out there.
Yes, they do in the American Aviation Hall. They've also got a B-52 and an SR-71, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. And they've got the F-4 as well, which is a personal favourite, and the A-10.
No F-14 though, which is disappointing.
No. But there we go. No, well, they got the F-15, so that kind of cancels that out. But
anyway. We're way off topic now. Back to World War II.
Right, okay, back to Bastogne, where we were last time. So, I want to get first initial impressions on this, if you don't mind. I think we'd go with Josh with the first initial impression on this. When did you first see this? Have you seen it many times before? What did you think of it first time? What did you think of it this time?
I saw this not on HBO, but within probably a year of it coming out. I got the DVD package very quickly. I knew about it coming because, like I said, Saving Private Ryan had really blown me away. So at that point, I was on the lookout for anything like that, and this was really, really coming off the heels of that. And I loved it. Ate it up. I've owned and seen. I've probably watched the entire series. I don't know, maybe 10 times through, 12 times through, on average, probably once a year, since then. And I'll tell you, this has always been an episode that I like especially. There's not a lot of episodes I don't like, but Bastogne is a great one. And having rewatched it now, I'll tell you, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about Dunkirk, and I believe neither of you gentlemen have seen it. Is that correct?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
All right. Well, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I'm not sure if it's just because...
I think we win.
Well, running away.
It was a tactical withdrawal. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Was that the last time British were scrambling to exit Europe with the Germans chasing them?
Doom.
Terrible. So, having just seen that, there